It's now up to the governor whether Idaho gets into the immigration enforcement game. The revised bill is about to hit his inbox. So what are the chances he vetoes his first bill of the session? Yeah, he signed a lot so far, including changes to Idaho's Medicaid expansion. And at least now, coroners in Idaho will have a few more standards than just legal drinking age.
And if you're scared of a little sunshine, I wonder why. I wonder why.
Sunshine Week continues, despite the pushback from those who would like to keep their travel expenses in the dark. Would you like to know who's paying for your legislator to head out of state? Probably the most anticlimactic bill of the morning, House Bill 83, passed through the House today for the second time. This is the immigration bill we're talking about, and it already passed the House more than a month ago by the same margin as it did today. But it was amended when it got to the Senate, so it had to go back to the House for final approval of those changes. The original, by the way, was a copycat of a Texas law that is still tied up in court. So the newer version is a combination of two immigration bills we've seen this session to make it more cooperative with the federal government, whose actual role is immigration enforcement. So no more deportation aspect of this bill, but it still makes illegal entry into Idaho a misdemeanor and re-entry into Idaho a felony. And those charges can only be considered when that person has already been detained or being investigated for allegedly committing another crime. The crafters of this bill point out this would eliminate the possibility of racial profiling, which is a rather rich thing to say considering that is already what's happening.
About 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, a friend of mine, him and his brothers, were going to the dump in a pickup, old pickup and a trailer, and they got stopped in Caldwell. And the cops said they were stopping them because they had run a red light, but they didn't run a red light. Anyway, the cop asked them, all of them, for their IDs, identifications, all three of them, and they were born here in Idaho. They're U.S. citizens. They told me about it, and I said, that's not right. That's not right.
Brenda Rodriguez spoke with Rudy a couple of weeks ago to find out from the common citizen their concerns with House Bill 83. And what he just described happens often already, we're told by numerous people. So House Bill 83 won't really change that aspect, but there's already a risk of getting pulled over for speeding and getting deported. We're told, though, this is a better bill than the original, according to a Boise-based immigration attorney. We first spoke with J.J. Despain 2 months ago, right after the first flash of House Bill 83 was introduced. He says this amended version creates less conflict with the feds, which means fewer toes being stepped on. It would get the ball rolling for immigration customs enforcement agents, but it should limit abuse of power by local police who could consider themselves deputized ICE agents. Instead of a traffic violation, it has to be more of a domestic violence situation now.
As part of an actual police report, an investigation, maybe they bring someone into the station. Now part of that is they can also find out what their status is. We have this person, we know he doesn't have a work permit or a visa, and he's been in the country illegally, and he's entered this many times. So they can basically do a little more of their own investigation to give ICE a head start.
Well, there is a part of this bill that Despain says caught his eye. The abatement of prosecution on basis of immigration status determination, which basically says Idaho will continue to prosecute you even while your immigration status is being figured out. Despain told us today, even the feds will put a criminal case on hold while they sort out the immigration stuff. Maybe you've already applied for a visa or asylum, and while you're waiting for that approval, you get picked up on a suspicion of a crime. And that part being in this bill, where Idaho will continue with the prosecution of illegal entry, could be considered problematic.
I would say so, yeah. This is definitely something where the states are kind of messing with the federal government's power here, where the federal government can say someone's here legally now, but a state might say, yeah, but they're still being convicted because of, maybe they have status now, but they didn't back when we arrested them, and they still have to suffer some kind of consequence for that.
So that could cause a problem with this bill.
It could, maybe later on, maybe they get that visa, fine, but then next time they apply for something like a green card or citizenship, now they say, well, we see you have this misdemeanor on your record, and they might have to say, well, yeah, that basically on the immigration side, that got all cleared up, but the state of Idaho still considers me to have this record. And that could maybe just open up more questions, more confusion.
Slow down the process for immigration status.
Yeah.
Yeah. likely adding more months or even years to someone gaining legal citizenship status. House Bill 83, as amended in the Senate, now heads to the governor for his likely signature. Well, so far this session, Governor Little has yet to issue any vetoes, and as of last night, he has signed 96 bills into law. Today, make that 97, at least, since we just learned a couple of hours ago the Medicaid Reform and Cost Containment Act was signed. Saying he wants Idahoans to be as self-sufficient as possible, Governor Little called House Bill 345 a huge improvement over a previous version that would have reversed voter-approved Medicaid expansion in 2018. Of course, before it can go into effect, the work requirements and other restrictions in that bill must get approval from the feds, something that did not happen in 2019. The last time such changes to Idaho's Medicaid expansion were tried. Also, 2 emergency medical services bills also signed into law. House Bill 206 and 207 are going to move Idaho's Emergency Medical Services Bureau from the Department of Health and Welfare to the Idaho Military Division, which already coordinates emergency management with state and local government. Supporters say the Military Division will provide a better coordination and guidance for EMS agencies, and this move will take effect on July 1st. Up to this point, county coroners in Idaho, which is an elected position, by the way, they could be filled by any citizen over the age of 21. No medical or professional experience necessary. Well, that changes come July 1st. Governor also signed Senate Bill 1101, which will require coroners to carry out an investigation of a death, and they must be formally trained to do so. Senate Bill 1121 will also allow funeral home employees to help county coroners with the handling of remains. Both of these bills are now law, will create consistent statewide guidelines that really didn't exist before. Well, speaking of before the coronavirus pandemic was even declared over in the U.S., Idaho lawmakers made sure nobody in Idaho was going to be required to get a COVID vaccine in order to work. They called it the Coronavirus Stop Act, and it passed into law in 2023. Today, lawmakers decided to ditch the name of that law, changing it to the Idaho Medical Freedom Act. And they expanded it to include schools and include any sort of medical intervention. Any sort of medical intervention, meaning no business or school in Idaho can require their employees or their students to get any vaccination, or as they put it, any pharmaceutical or biological agent or product designed to alter or restrict the biological functioning of the body. But as opponents of the bill pointed out, how far is too far when it comes to telling private businesses what they can or can't do?
I have been trying for 11 years to get discrimination protection, saying that businesses can't turn somebody away for being gay. And I was told that that was way too much of an infringement on the freedom of the private sector.
It's not about people having personal medical freedom. I'm all for personal medical freedom. What I am concerned about is that that personal medical freedom then puts other people at risk, businesses at risk, their reputations at risk.
After a close tally in the Senate and another close tally in the House, passing 47-23, the Medical Freedom Bill now heads to the governor's office. Meanwhile, the bill allowing Idaho firefighters to fight wildfires on federal lands had already passed the full House today. We told you about this yesterday. House Bill 389 expands state authority to fight fires on those lands where a fire is, quote, burning out of control or without adequate precautions. Sponsor Judy Boyle says if a fire is on federal land and it's affecting the health, life, safety of our citizens, then the governor should be able to declare an emergency and order state resources to go put out that fire before it becomes catastrophic. Well, the only problem, though, is getting the money. The bill says the attorney general then's going to have to prosecute, basically file a lawsuit to recover the local funds used to fight those wildfires, but that doesn't always guarantee reimbursement.
And if the federal government were to determine not to adhere to our agreement, then we would be covering the cost of all fire mitigation.
Push has come to shove, and it's time for us to push on this issue and try and get some sort of result that protects Idahoans and their property.
Well, that bill is now on its way to the Senate. Okay, so should representatives and senators in your district be forced to disclose if any out-of-state money is sending them to conferences or events? Lawmakers in Boise are debating whether to shine a light on who's paying for lawmakers' out-of-state travel. The bill's sponsor says it's about transparency. Those opposed, they call it a double standard. Aspen Shumpert has the call on what happened.
This bill is about control. It's about creating an environment where it really suppresses our ability to be able to go to these events.
It's called a transparency bill. something the bill sponsor, Stephanie Mickelson, tells me targets what she calls dark money from outside groups trying to influence Idaho policy.
In the last election cycle, there was a huge amount of money that came in from out of state, and basically for $2 to $3 million, these out of state groups bought our state legislature to be able to have the outcomes that they wanted to have.
The legislation requires lawmakers to disclose when outside groups pay for their out-of-state travel.
We don't want to shut down regular Idahoans and real issues and real problems that we have for Idahoans by having all these bill mill bills that come through the state based upon out-of-state influence.
Lawmakers would report to the Secretary of State where and when they traveled, why and who paid for it. They'll need to submit all of that within 30 days of traveling out of state. If not, they'll face a $25 fine for each day it goes undisclosed.
If we ourselves are unwilling to be transparent about what we are doing, how can we expect anyone else to do anything less than that?
Currently, in-state lobbyists must report when they pay at least $130 for lawmakers' in-state travel, but out-of-state groups face no such requirement. Mickelson says that's the loophole she's trying to close.
If we're not willing to do that, then goodness gracious, we shouldn't be making the laws.
But not everyone sees the bill as true transparency.
It picks winners and losers, and it's wrong.
This excludes people who use their own money. So if it's really about transparency, shouldn't everybody, whether they can buy their way out of transparency or not, have to declare that? To me, this creates kind of a transparency caste system.
The argument that it was a caste system was kind of silly, because I got to tell you, I think even legislators that could afford it, if somebody else is willing to pay the bill, why would they spend their own money?
Other lawmakers say the bill is a good thing.
We have sat here for weeks on end and debated about how we need more transparency in this state. We passed DOGE, which was a great idea. We've carved through bills. We've sent stuff back, and we just did one earlier. And then when it comes to us, we want to sit here and say, well, maybe this shouldn't apply to me.
I think that to have this type of transparency for our constituents is just a good faith offering that we're willing to show you where we get our ideas or where our influences come from.
So that bill did pass on the House floor last week. Mickelson is also trying to pass this exact same bill, but instead the requirements would be for state officials like the governor or the attorney general. That bill is waiting for its debate on the House floor, Brian.
And I assume we're going to hear some of the same arguments, although it wouldn't necessarily be about them. So maybe not. Maybe they'll be more willing to pass those as opposed to shining the light on themselves.
Yeah, and she decided to split these into two bills instead of one because she felt like she had a better chance to maybe pass one, maybe one wouldn't go, instead of trying to put it all in one and maybe it getting vetoed.
The whole thing going down the tubes. All right. Thank you very much, Aspen. Idaho State Police are asking for any help finding a silver or light gray 2004 to 2006 Acura TL that hit and killed a cyclist near Caldwell, then drove away. Audrielle Tackett tells us more details about that deadly crash in today's 411.
A 55-year-old Caldwell cyclist died after 2 cars hit him last night, and now Idaho State Police need your help. ISP says a car hit the cyclist while turning onto I-84 from the off-ramp. Then the cyclist was hit again by a pickup truck. Sadly, the man died at the scene. The first car drove off, so now ISP is asking any witnesses to call ISP Dispatch at 208-846-7500. Another avalanche alert. The stretch of Highway 21 between Grand Jean and Banner Summit is closed because of high avalanche risk. Again, we'll let you know when it opens back up. The Nampa and Meridian irrigation district said today they are going to start filling their canals and irrigation systems on April 2nd. The 2-week process is expected to be done by the 15th. They say that now is a good time for residents with pressurized systems to clean or replace their filters so they're ready to receive water. Are you gearing up for Tree Fort? Because Boise is. Setup has started for the 5-day festival that kicks off next Wednesday and runs through the following Sunday. There are still a variety of tickets and passes available on their website. Or you can enjoy the many free forts around the city, including live music at the Julia Davis Bandshell, Boise Brewing, the Modern Hotel, and much more. 4-year-old kid called 911 on his mom for eating his ice cream last week. Now the Oregon-based dairy company Tillamook launched a limited-time hotline called the Tillamook Meltdown Line to help victims like the young boy. They will give free ice cream to anyone calling who's been victimized by their loved ones eating their ice cream. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Audrielle Tackett.
We've had some dramatic skies the last couple of days here in southwest Idaho. The big headline, though, I think for tomorrow is that we say so long to winter and hello to spring. Officially, that vernal equinox will happen at 3:01 tomorrow morning. So at this point tomorrow, we will solidly be in the spring season, though it takes temperatures a few days to get the memo and follow suit. So our first day of spring here in Boise tomorrow, we will start off warmer than we did this morning. We were in the mid-20s in the Treasure Valley this morning. Maybe the last time we see temperatures that cold this season. Don't quote me on that, but it looks possible that could have been our last 25 or so degree reading in Boise. Tomorrow morning we'll be in the mid-30s. We'll only hit the low 50s and we'll keep some wind in play. Normally, as we inch towards the end of March, we're closer to about 57 degrees. We'll get there in my 7-day forecast, but it does take a few days. Looking outside right now, we have blue sky for the most part right now, except over McCall, where it's 34 degrees. We're near 50 in Twin Falls, 51 right now in Boise, mid-30s in Sun Valley. So everywhere about 5 to 7 degrees warmer than yesterday. Unfortunately, we do still have some southeasterly winds in play. They've helped boosted our temperatures, but also a bit of a nuisance if you're headed out this evening. So just make sure you plan maybe the hairstyle or the activities accordingly. The winds will subside after sunset. Temperatures hovering in the upper 40s until 10 o'clock tonight, and clouds will be on the increase as another system is starting to work its way in from the west. So already we're seeing that pretty well-defined band of clouds. Few light showers popping up in northeast Oregon right now, rain and or snow, just depending on elevation. Heavier rain making its way towards the Pacific Northwest, but this system will generally weaken a bit as it moves eastward. But this front will start working its way into our neck of the woods very early tomorrow morning. And we're not really going to see much temperature change tomorrow, so not a big pool of cold air coming in with this system, but still winds will persist and we will see accumulating mountain snow for our first day of spring. Here we are at 10 o'clock tonight, a quick little round of snow possible in the Boise Mountains. The bigger push of precipitation comes with that front around 3 or 4 in the morning for the Treasure Valley. We will see some moderate snow up in the mountains, maybe 2 to 4 inches accumulating around 5,000 feet. A couple more inches as you get up to 6,000 feet. Bigger headline for the lower elevations tomorrow will continue to be that breeze out of the northwest. It will persist throughout the day. Not as blustery. It won't be howling like we were yesterday, but still a nuisance again tomorrow. And then will dry out for the most part during the day on Thursday. And we see another system coming in late Friday into Saturday that will bring a similar setup for us. Another round of overnight showers and some accumulating mountain snow. So Magic Valley tomorrow, your first day of spring, will be a breezy one with some sunshine at times. Highs in those mid to upper 40s. Light snow showers will pop up in the mountains during the day tomorrow, but most of the accumulation will likely happen in the morning. 33 for McCall, that high tomorrow. Here in the Treasure Valley, we'll see low to mid 50s. So again, right on par with today with breezy winds throughout the day. Couple showers possible off and on in the Boise area, maybe even some grapple in the afternoon if that sun breaks through. On Friday, we dry out. We'll hit the mid 50s. Another round of rain looks likely Saturday morning. And after that, we turn our attention to a nice warm up just in time for Tree Fort next week. We see highs in the 60s by Monday, then into the 70s Tuesday and Wednesday.
All right, let's get to your comments here. We got a couple minutes left in the show. Got a few comments to share for you. We got this one from, I think it was, I'm not sure who this came from, but Brian said, or they said, Brian, I'm so glad Republicans run on the platform of small government, yet they continue to make laws that tell us how to live our lives. That's a theme we get a lot. This is something the legislature has been doing for a long time. Yes, that's not a new concept in Idaho State House, but it is something that's getting a little more attention. Isn't Idaho already the least vaccinated state, which is scary? This legislature has figured out a way to reduce population in-state. Unfortunately for them, it won't just affect the out-of-staters. And yes, that's true. We are one of the few, or one of the lowest vaccinated states in the country. We come in number 4 at just 56% of Idahoans who are vaccinated. And that doesn't include the children. So schools can't require vaccines at all, huh? Is that what this bill is trying to say? Be prepared for lots of absences, increased medical costs, and poor education outcomes, says SK in Boise. This is already a thing with Idaho schools, by the way. You don't have to be vaccinated. It is required, but you can fill out a form or bring in a doctor's note that says you have a medical exemption, or you can fill out a form and just say, I have a religious exemption, or any other exemption you want to dream up. You don't have to explain why, but just say, I'm exempting my child from vaccination. But should an outbreak happen in that school, then your child may not be able to be part of any sort of activity. And this also applies to daycares, by the way. This is how this works out. Idaho already has a great interagency firefighting agreement with the feds, says Ken in Boise. We receive way more help than the state could possibly provide. This is talking about Bill 389, House Bill 389, which wants to be able to allow Idaho to go into federal lands to fight a fire that may potentially be dangerous to people in the area. But we'll have to look more into this, because there's a lot that has to be considered when it talks about this bill. It did pass the House. It's heading over to the Senate, but we're going to try to do a little deeper dive on this sometime in the near future. Stay tuned. We'll be back here tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.